Welcome to the Cultural Celebration Sampler. We will be learning about celebrations in a few other countries. Perhaps you will have heard of some of these, but they may all be new to you. Our first presenter is Alan Milne of New Zealand. He has served as president of the Friendship Force Taupo, New Zealand, and is also a life member of Friendship Force Kapiti Coast, New Zealand. A member of Friendship Force since 1986, Alan previously served as president of the Friendship Force International Board.
Hello there, I'm Alan Milne from New Zealand, and I want to talk to you today about Waitangi Day. This rather unique New Zealand holiday recognises the 6th of February 1840, the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi in the Bay of Islands in the far north of New Zealand. Maori sought protection from the French and from the US and from rum and muskets and seamen, perhaps even themselves, and wanted the rights of British subjects. The Crown guaranteed ownership of the land and assets and offered sovereignty. New Zealand would become a British colony. Note that this was not a treaty between a victor and the vanquished. It was an agreement between two equal parties, the Indigenous people of New Zealand and their visitors, who then were sailors, missionaries, traders, whalers and sealers. But they were to become their colonisers. The treaty was actually written in 2 days, and although there was no Maori written language, te reo, at that time, it was interpreted overnight into Maori, but inevitably the meaning was not exactly the same. After 5 hours of debate and objection, it was signed the next day by local chiefs and senior Maori and the Lieutenant Governor Hobson representing Queen Victoria. And then, over the next year, copies were taken around New Zealand and signed by another 500 chiefs and, in fact, 13 women. Following the signing of that treaty, colonists arrived in large numbers from Britain and acquired land for very little consideration. This led to wars for 30 years, ensuring more land confiscation. The treaty rights of Maori were effectively ignored, and this situation continued for over 100 years. Now, who were Maori? Polynesian Maori could have their more recent origins in Tahiti, after a much earlier migration from Taiwan, very much like your own Hawaiian people. About 700 years ago, sea-going canoes then travelled about 2,600 miles over open seas to various locations around New Zealand, or Aotearoa as they knew it, the land of the long white cloud, and thus became occupiers, tangata whenua, settlers, and owners of New Zealand and all that it contained. Pre-1800, Maori owned, occupied and had the rights of all of New Zealand and all of the resources. However, they were definitely tribal warriors. By 1900, Maori actually owned very little. Maori traced their lineage, their whakapapa, or descent, from the canoe, waka, that brought their tribe to New Zealand. New Zealand has a population of about 5 million, with about 800,000 being Maori, and another 150,000 Maori actually live in Australia. There is no legal genetic requirement or percentage needed to qualify as Maori. In 1975, the government passed legislation which recognised the long history of grievances and facilitated compensation. Since then, settlement has been negotiated and about $1 billion New Zealand dollars have been paid to various iwi in cash and assets. Waitangi Day is a public holiday, recognised in a variety of ways. Traditionally, the Governor-General and the Prime Minister and government ministers have met with Maori at the Waitangi Marae Treaty House, and it is generally a fairly tense time of both goodwill and of protest. Local activities vary from virtually nothing, as here in Taupo, to family sporting activities in other cities and districts. Now, while I was mayor on the Kapiti Coast some years ago, we initiated quite a wide range of community iwi activities, including a service at a local Maori church and visits to local marae, enjoying a traditional welcome, a pōwhiri, a challenge and acceptance, the hongi, that's forehead and nose pressing together as in greeting, certainly not done with COVID now, haka, poi and kapa haka performances, talking, korero, food, kai, often cooked in the ground in a hangi, an oven in the ground, and resulting in a really good feeling of understanding. Sometimes this has been followed by a formal reception by our Governor-General, the representatives of the Queen, at Government House in Wellington. And while Mayor, I was actually very careful not to call it a celebration. I need to stress that I am 100% of European origin, and I am no authority on Maori or the treaty. As the great-grandson of a colonist, my view of history will undoubtedly differ from that of many Maori. I hope that you will be prompted to do a bit more research, maybe talk to Mr. Google, or to better understand one aspect of New Zealand's cultural heritage. Waitangi Day is a unique holiday and a special day for us in New Zealand. It is perhaps a little akin to your Martin Luther King Day. Or do you reflect on the place of Indigenous Indians in the United States? It is certainly a day for us to question our past and to look to our future.
Cecilia Bouchet is our second speaker. She is a member of the Friendship Force Limburg, Belgium. Limburg is a province in Belgium, not a city or village. Cecilia was also previously a member of the Friendship Force International Board.
Hello everybody, I am Cecilia Bouchet from Belgium. I am a member of the Friendship Force Club of Limburg, which is a province northeast of my country, and we border with Germany and the Netherlands. And I was asked to tell a story about a National Fun Day in Belgium, a traditional one, and I'm going to tell you about that. It's about the figure of Sinterklaas. The figure of Sinterklaas is based on the Bishop of Myra, nowadays in Turkey, but at that time part of the Roman Empire. He died in 324 on December 6th. Therefore, December 6th is the day that we have the celebration of the children. The best known story is about a poor man with 3 daughters who, thanks to gifts from Sint-Nicolaas, have dowries and can marry. They do not have to turn to prostitution to earn a living. St. Nicholas threw the gifts through the open window. This is probably where chocolate coin come from. In late legends, it is written that the gifts must have ended up in shoes. Various legends dating back more than 800 years after the death depict St. Nicholas as the patron saint. There is a legend about 2 or 3 children or apprentice priests who are killed by an innkeeper and put in a brine barrel, after which Nicholas brings the victims back to life and forgives the innkeeper and his wife if they repent. The painting The Sinterklaas Celebration by Jan Steen from around 1665. Now, Jan Steen is a famous Dutch painter. Shows a number of still known traditions. Singing Sinterklaas songs, the gifts, the chimney through which the gifts and sweets came, or the punishment with only a whipping switch in the shoe. The oldest Sinterklaas custom is putting out a shoe. In the Netherlands, this has been done from at least the 15th century, when the poor leave their shoes in the church and the citizens put money in them, particularly distributed among the poor. The money was particularly distributed among the poor. From the 16th century, there are descriptions of shoes being put in the living room by children, which is still done now. The children fill a shoe with oats and straw. Late at night, the parents replace this with apples, cakes, raisins, or money. Toys, candy, gingerbread cookies, spice nuts, marzipan, or speculoos were also given. Other traditions include the sprinkling of sweets, the singing of Sinterklaas songs, and the gifts on Sinterklaas evening. The festival was celebrated both in the city and the countryside. From the 18th century onward, chocolate milk and spiced wine were served as a drink, along with alphabet letters made of dough with sweet filling, called banquet letters, which have been known since the 19th century. The mischievous children, however, found a whip or a bag of salt in the shoe. The figure of Sint-Nicolaas has evolved over the centuries to be a patron saint of children. From an ogre and heavy-handed pedagogue, he turned in a folkloric childhood friend. Over the years, Sinterklaas, the northern Netherlands, transformed into an ogre child scare, which was used to instill fear in children. This probably had to do with the prohibition that applied in the Protestant regions for portraying Catholic saints. He was also dressed up as a terrifying black man with chains on his feet or with jester bells. That's how the Protestants wanted to figure him. The Saint Nicholas figure, sometimes also called Zwarte Klaas, gave sweets to good children and intimidated disobedient children to persuade them to obedience. Such he was the forerunner of Zwarte Piet, Black Pete. In the late 18th century, people turned against the street party of Sinterklaas and idleness, and also against the image of the boogeyman. The feast was to be used to positively teach children obedience and diligence. The Sinterklaas celebration now became part of the upbringing and was given a full place in education and the family. With the bogeyman out of the way, the traditional bishop was brought back.
Rick Trivino is giving our third presentation. He is a veteran Friendship Force ambassador and a worldwide traveler from New York. Rick is originally from Colombia, but has been a naturalized citizen of the USA for many years.
Medellín, Colombia's Flower Festival. While Medellín has evolved in the past 63 years, the original festival's core components remain. The desfile de Silleteros is the admired anchor of the now 10-day festival, where dozens of locals once partook. The parade has grown to more than 500 participants carrying floats through town. The floats themselves are no joke, as they are built on an up to 6-foot wide circular wooden platforms and weighed up to 150 pounds. Between the wood and the flower comprise art. Over the years, even more events have been added on, including a lively bicycle tour of the city known as Ritmo de Bicicleta. Thousands gather also for pop-up concerts and the Festival Nacional de la Trova, where hundreds of Colombians gathered for a trova music competition, celebrating the improvised musical style. There are even more flowers to see. 2 Medellin's botanical garden is a visual spectacle during the Feria de las Flores. On a given day, the Jardín Botánico exhibits the region's diverse plant life forms. For the flower festival, though the space zeroes in one of the Colombian's most popular exports, with displays of breathtaking and dazzling orchids. The garden is also a science center where research and work is done for the conservation of Colombian biodiversity. Beyond its multisensory beauty, the Feria de las Flores presents an opportunity to absorb Medellin's local genuine warmth and pride. These have been some of the parties I have ever been in my life, said Ben Grisby, a New Jersey native who 5 years ago married his wife Monica, who grew up in Medellín. Since the Grisby have made several pilgrimages to the flower festival. The people are very special in Medellín, and they know that you are a tourist. They invite you to dance and drink aguardiente and eat empanadas, arepas, and chicharrón to celebrate with them. He says they make you feel that these parties are for you too.
Our fourth presentation was arranged by çiçek Sensan of Turkey. Her club is the Friendship Force of Karşıyaka Bay, Izmir. çiçek is a former member of the Friendship Force International Board. National Turkish Sovereignty and Children's Holiday, presented by çiçek Sensan, voiced by Cinda Clark. My name is çiçek Sensan, and I'm from Turkey. I have been a member of Friendship Force since 1995 and held many important positions in my Friendship Force life. I have started as a secretary of our club and later on been the club president and served on the board of directors as well. During the War of Independence, Grand National Assembly met in Ankara and laid down the foundations of a new, independent, secular, and modern republic from the ashes of the Ottoman Empire. The founder of the Turkish Republic, Ataturk, presented April 23rd to all the world's children to emphasize that they are the successors of the future. Turkey is also the only country that celebrates a Children's Day in the world. The celebrations often take place outdoors. Schools participate in week-long ceremonies marked by performances like folk dances, sports activities, songs, or poems in all fields and large stadiums, watched by the entire nation, and they are also broadcast on TV. Among the activities on this day, the children send their representatives to replace state officials and high-ranking civil servants in their offices. The president, the cabinet ministers, provincial governors, and mayors all turn over their positions to children's representatives. On this day, children also replace the parliamentarians in the Grand National Assembly and hold a special session to discuss matters concerning children's issues. Over the last decades, the Turkish Republic has been working hard to internationalize this important day. Their efforts resulted in large numbers of countries sending groups of children between ages 11 and 14 to Turkey to participate in the above-stated festivities. During their stay in Turkey, the foreign children are hosted by Turkish families who have children at the same age, so the children can learn about each other's countries and cultures. The guest children perform their own folk dances with their own folk dresses. This important holiday also founds a good friendship between those children who shared a home together. Teşekkürler, or thank you. Russell Veitch will be telling about the only true king the United States ever had. Although some of us here do not celebrate that king, he is still celebrated in Australia. Russell is from Lugano, New South Wales, Australia.
Well, hello to our good friends in America. My name's Russell Veitch, and I was fortunate enough to visit your club many, many years ago at the early stages of our experience with Friendship Force. But today I want to talk to you about one of the great festivals that we have in Australia. Probably better than most countries, Australia has lots and lots of public holidays, and we are very generous with our businesses that most of us have a 4-week annual holiday. Then there's Christmas and many other ones. But the one I want to talk to you today is about a festival at an inland city called Parkes. Parkes now has a population of about 12,000 people, and it was in decline. It was a little country town in decline over the years. And a quarter of a century ago, they decided to hold a festival because two people who were really keen Elvis Presley fans decided that they would hold an Elvis weekend where everybody in town had to dress up as Elvis. Well, over the years, it has grown and grown to now the second week in January. It is a major event where the population grows from 12,000 people up to about 40,000 people for the one weekend. Special trains run from Sydney. It's about a 6-hour train ride. Special trains run from Sydney out to Parkes, and everybody on the train has to dress like Elvis. So it major event on TV as the train gets ready, packs up and move out with all these Elvis Presley impersonators. Many of them are not as attractive as they used to be when they were young. Many of them have put on a few extra weight over the years. So there's young children and women, and there's a few Priscillas, and they get on the train and they go to Parkes, where on the weekend they'll have processions with Cadillacs, of course, pink ones, and there'll be shows on all weekend with impersonators with black hair, oversized sunglasses, white jumpsuits, which to many of us look a little bit tight on these people, and bulging stomachs, singing and performing Elvis Presley shows. It's been a great success, and every year it gets bigger and bigger. But it's only one of the festivals that go on in Australia, so every weekend within 7 or 8 hours drive of Sydney, there'll be some country town has put on a festival. This next weekend we're going to head off into a country town, about 9 hours drive, to a place called Tumbarumba, and it's Tumberfest, which is another weekend. But as you can see, it is a beautiful day here in Sydney, sun shining, no snow, and running around about 30 degrees. So I'll hope you have a great celebration of your club, and we look forward to seeing many of you here in Australia when the borders open again. Thank you.